Welcome back, everybody. It's time to close out Group C. This is a rematch from what the group started out with. It's going to be GuMiho versus NightMare again. GuMiho did win this the first time around. It was a shaky best of 3, I guess is one way to put it. But it was also looking a little experimental from GuMiho. I'm curious now that, you know, we're at the very end of this group. What kind of GuMiho are we going to see? Is he going to be doing some more wacky builds, some builds we probably won't see for the rest of the year from any Terrans? Or is he going to have that traditional play like what he did in Game 3 versus NightMare, where he just sort of played clean, executed well, and won?
Yeah, I imagine it will be unpredictable, but not quite as zany as what we saw from him in Game 2. I don't think we're going to have 3 Ravens and no medevacs at the 8-minute mark.
Yeah. or
anymore.
3 racks stim with no medevacs. Anything weird like that? Probably not. Now, NightMare's looking a lot better. He seems to be a lot more warmed up. He was able to hang and play some late-game games that were pretty awesome to see, but I'm really going to be more focused on the early game here from GuMiho and what he's choosing to make and not make.
Yeah, and as for NightMare in this series, a couple laps of judgments in terms of having vision in the right place really come back to bite him. If he can tighten that vision up here in this series, he might go to the round of 8. Okay, GuMiho spawning in the bottom left. It's the blue Terran, NightMare. The top right, the red Protoss.
Okay, so we ended up not having the marathon of TVPs that we thought we might end up getting, but we are back on them. I did enjoy our mirror matchups here.
Yeah, they were fun. NightMare played so well, by the way, in that PvP.
Oh, yeah.
I was very impressed.
I really enjoyed the games, to be honest. But this also means that GuMiho was able to circumvent having to show a lot of his builds. Same is true for NightMare, right?
Yeah.
You don't know who you're up against next, but, you know, the fact that this had not become the deep dive of the, you know, this matchup that we thought it might be means both players can come into this having more builds still up their sleeve.
Not just here, but also in the round of 8. One of them will be advancing.
Yeah. So that's important to note.
And thinking back to the first series that they played, of course, GuMiho kind of did a wonky build that didn't seem particularly good against anything in Game 2 and paid the price for it. So we did go all the way to a map number 3, but I mean, we think back to the first map of that best of 3 on Site Delta in, you know, NightMare. If he spotted the double medevacs moving out cross map, if he spotted the third base taken by GuMiho at the linear third, if he had just a couple different changes in observer placement or was more aware of where his opponent was maneuvering, I think that game might be a win for him. I think NightMare absolutely can take game number 1. Game number 3 is same story. He loses an obs to a scan. The second obs comes in, and it misses the siege tank move out by a hair. GuMiho sieges up right in front of his natural expansion. And with the build that NightMare went for, with so much production, I think it was 3 gateways and a robo, all in the natural, that's basically game over. You need to be able to kite that army across the map, buy yourself some time, get into a better army position, and not let them immediately start sieging down your natural. So for NightMare, I know that he lost 2-1 against GuMiho in that first series, but I don't think it's necessarily indicative of how this series is going to go. He played really well against Creator, and I'm very curious what he's going to come up with here in this series. Already mixing it up, going for a Stargate in game number 1.
Yeah, you know, I certainly don't think that NightMare is supposed to be dying to, like, a standard timing push here. You're completely right about the fact that, like, look, the Observer just missed it, and especially in TVP, excuse me, it really is a matchup that comes down to, like, just a couple seconds of knowing ahead of time. Makes all the difference in the world. We've got the Phoenixes coming down right now.
Yeah.
And again, as you said, State, this is a very different looking NightMare this time around. He clearly came in here with a lot of different openings as well.
I'm curious if we're going to see a robo come down here from NightMare, as he just barely is going to miss getting that SCV in the natural expansion. Okay, he does notice. I was getting scared, man. It's like a horror film.
Okay, so he is going to be able to get rid of this one Widow Mine over here. And that's going to be that. We've got a Cyclone coming up next here for GuMiho. The Phoenixes are going to continue to be made for the time being.
I'm wondering if we're going to see a Robo come down or if there will be a relatively fast third base. I'm leaning towards a Robo potentially after the
you called it.
Next Phoenix, because this is something that we've kind of been seeing from. I believe Stats and Classic both mixed this in a little bit in Group B, if I'm not mistaken, against Bunny. I think it might have been both of them, or maybe it was just Classic. It's a week ago. My memory's fuzzy. I'm getting older, but it worked quite well. You know, this Phoenix competition to establish early control, especially against a player like GuMiho, who was really happy to send Cyclones or Widowmines and Medevacs cross map or go for Hellion drops or all kinds of crazy harassment antics early on. Phoenix is kind of the unit that you want to deal with that if you can get yourself in position, because it's going to go down. I don't think you're going to trade that one out.
Dude, that was so painful to see. I was about to mention this, like, you know, with Phoenixes, you really need to keep the bulk of them alive. If you start to drop Phoenixes here or there, like, one Phoenix doesn't do anything.
They're
it's
very
like one
expensive.
hand trying to clap. It just doesn't work.
I like that, yeah.
And so there may end up being just like a really good timing attack. Actually, timing attack is almost like giving it too much credit. You might just be able to take what you have and just kill them because they're lacking.
Some sneaky adepts right there.
Some sneaky plays. Okay, he's going to back up. But yeah, we have Stim coming. We have another Raven about to be made. We have so many Cyclones out already with two more. You know, they're basically coming out in pairs. So
yeah, Cyclones are really good against Phoenix openers in general, and I think that's one of the reasons why we have NightMare. Oh, he is going to get this Raven, so that's the catch he was looking for at the beginning. Not quite going to get this one, and might actually lose another Phoenix there. Yeah, two Cyclones popping out at just the right time. That does hurt, but Phoenixes, they aren't especially useful in a situation like this one where your opponent is going basically mass Cyclone on three bases here in the early game. Of course, GuMiho's not going to stick with it. He is adding in additional barracks, but the Phoenix, not going to be the unit that you want to deal with this. They pair really well with Colossi, but this is the game where you kind of want to go more into charge, more into Immortals, and try and play a bit of a more gateway style. And so that is why we see NightMare stopping Phoenix production, adding in 4 additional gateways, going for the Templar Archive. And I like this because it seems like he's kind of thinking on his feet. I don't think he imagined the game going exactly like this.
Funny.
Is the Adepts actually going to get into the main base? That barracks did not land in time. At least 4 or 5 SCVs should go down here.
That's got to be a surprise when you get up. There you go. The depots are up, but the barracks isn't landing.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of the pitfalls of having your production like that in the front, is eventually that factory is going to lift. And NightMare just had the sense of timing to go for it, and oh my goodness.
Oh man, are you serious?
Yeah, the Phoenix control not quite it here for NightMare this game.
He sent the workers back too fast too. He lost some there as well.
Yeah, and he has to, if he wants to kill that Raven, he needs to make another Phoenix. It's painful. A little bit of misplay.
Well, I'm just worried that, again, like GuMiho might just be able to come in there and kill him because of the number of units that have been taken out here.
Yeah, I think if there is going to be a killing move from GuMiho, it'll be much later, because the Cyclone army, while it is strong early on, it doesn't scale particularly well, and NightMare has basically finessed his army composition into the exact counter. He's going for Immortals, he's going for Charge Zealots, he's even adding in Archons. He's not even going for Storm. He wants pure bulk with this army, and actually with GuMiho caught out of position right now with a handful of, actually the bulk of the Cyclones all the way up in the top left. One big warp in here from NightMare in the main base. This could start to spiral out of control here for GuMiho. And yeah, he's catching wind of this aggression right now. But is he going to be ready for the main base drop? There actually isn't a supply depot to spot for this, so he is completely unprepared.
Yeah, he's got the Marauder and the Marine out here. Meanwhile, there's going to be a push coming up here. A pretty bad force field actually trampled by the very Zealot there from NightMare. He's going to drop that Archon. And now, dude, this is so bad.
Yeah.
He's just losing his core comp. I think NightMare.
So he was able to kill a lot of SCVs in the main base because GuMiho just completely focused on wiping the army. But I'm not sure that was the best. I feel like NightMare could have disengaged there at the third and still gotten a lot of damage done here in the main.
You got to be able to right-click away. And now I'm a little bit afraid because, especially with those Immortals all taken out here, you really don't have a lot of the important stuff that You need to try to take these fights.
Link Stalkers are really good against his composition, though. Should NightMare be able to slowly kite him back to the other side of the map? And let's keep in mind, NightMare, yes, he did lose a lot of high-value units there. He lost Archons, he lost Immortals,
sure.
He lost a good chunk of his Zealots, but he was a substantial number of workers up. I think almost 20 workers up at one point. So his economy is quite strong back at home, and just 1 or 2 big warp-ins. And it's going to be tough for GuMiho because a lot of his army supply right now is caught up in Cyclones. He still has 5 of them. The bio count isn't that great just yet, and we also only have 3 medevacs. So the standing army for GuMiho is not too formidable just this moment. But my worry is how this army is going to scale over time because we still have no Templar on the map, despite the fact that Storm is getting researched. I think the first one is getting warped in just now. Whereas GuMiho, really, he just needs to pump bio and eventually mix in Ghost, and he's going to have a really solid composition.
Yeah, I do like the harass play. This is a smart move. It doesn't seem like GuMiho, as you were saying, State, has really built up the kind of army that can maybe take a big fight just yet, but he is moving out. He has got this big position. It looks like it's going to kind of snake its way up to 12 o'clock, and I think the Observer completely missed it. So there's a chance he can just spring an attack over to this natural base, and NightMare might not be ready. He's going to scan. Now, there's no siege tanks here, but there are Widow Mines.
Storm is done, though. These 3 medevacs are very low on energy. We'll see if these storms can connect. GuMiho now catching wind of that. He's going to lose 1 more medevac, retreating back. That was a really good storm. I feel like that storm was better than it had any right to be, as a ton of these Marines took massive damage. Medevacs do not have the energy to fully heal these things up, so GuMiho has to retreat. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw 1 or 2 more blinks forward. Yeah, that's every medevac down. GuMiho's medevac count reset down to 3, and when you play bio compositions like this one, the medevac count is really what carries you.
Oh, yeah. You need to accumulate enough of them that, you know, they're all able to recharge over time, and each infantry unit basically has its own personal healer.
Oh, what a storm!
Another sick storm there.
And these Zealots here at the third base, GuMiho is bleeding out a little bit. These have been some very favorable trades here for NightMare. He is doing a good job of stabilizing.
I gotta say, NightMare is looking a lot stronger in this series so far. I know we're only into game 1 in this rematch, but again, it's always GuMiho with, like, you know, lacking in these medevacs. Unusual unit comps are not leading to advantageous positions as we get into, you know, that mid game, and now we're deep into the late game here.
Warp Prism coming into the main base here of GuMiho. A lot of minerals in the bank, so that's going to be a big Zealot warp in once again. And there actually isn't a rally here. It's all in the natural expansion. And it's not very much either. That doesn't deal with all of these Zealots, so even more SCVs are going to go down. GuMiho, after that initial drop in his main base, was down maybe 20 workers and eventually was able to claw his way back down. But oh, he's hitting the third base too. Man, NightMare is playing really well right now. 15 more SCVs, and we're not done yet. This is pretty crazy. GuMiho has been caught so badly out of position, and his army in the middle can't even contest the force of NightMare because there's only 2 Ghosts. They've already been using a lot of EMPs, so they're relatively low on energy. The 4 Templar have been split, so he hasn't been able to find the money EMP during all of this. And NightMare's going to lift back into the main base. There still aren't enough reinforcements to deal with this because GuMiho's supply block. He lost depots.
Yeah, I mean, this is such good tactical player from NightMare. He's going to hit this position as well. So many workers have been picked off. Now this command center over here at the top. The Marauders are going to come down here to try to save this fight. The Immortals over on the outside for a little bit. Pretty bad storm, only connecting onto 1 Marauder back there.
Second storm is good, though, able to connect with a lot of bio. Liberator gets linked on. 10 more workers go down as that Warp Prism, I think, has finally been cleaned up in the main base. And NightMare, he is going to bleed out a lot of units right now, but he's already starting a transition into double Robo Colossus. And I feel like NightMare right there, he killed so many SCVs. I think GuMiho was at 70 plus before that engagement. He's still not mining from his third base. His main base gases are only just now getting saturated again, so he's floating a ton of minerals. The fourth base, I don't think that one's fully saturated either. NightMare's economy, a lot better than GuMiho's right now. And if these 4 Templar that he just warped in are able to get enough energy for 1 or 2 storms, I don't think the Ghost count is going to be high enough to really deal with them. It's still down at 2.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy, the pressure that he's put on him. GuMiho is finally going to have his turn on the map. He has a lot over here. The Colossi are obviously going to be a real threat, and this army from GuMiho can't really do anything. At the same time, though, when you have Colossi in army formations like this, you could just have another group move somewhere else on the map and just not engage the Colossi at all.
There's Zealot run by. Some nice micro there from GuMiho. Only going to lose a couple of SCVs.
Oh, the Observer.
Oh, that EMP. Oh, I feel like NightMare was almost baiting that one. He was just waiting for the Ghost to send in a shot, and then he pulls the Templar away. Only one of them gets EMP'd. Nice counterattack here from GuMiho. Going to try and pull NightMare apart. Unfortunately, the army on the left side isn't really in a position to capitalize on this just because there are so many fires on the map. GuMiho had to deal with another run by at the third base. And he will be able to find this Nexus, get the cancel, so he is going blow for blow. And slowly but surely, he is working his army supply all the way back up.
It's kind of wild, actually, because if you didn't have the supplies on screen, like for most of that, it looked like Protoss was just dominating, but over time, GuMiho just has mustered this like maxed out army.
I feel like a lot of it is because NightMare is making some very expensive units. He has 3 Colossi, 2 Disruptors, 4 Templar on the field right now. He's really investing into these. Now, these Stalkers are going to get warped into the main base by recall.
I don't know if that's enough Stalkers to fight this army.
With a Zealot warp in, I think it should be. Oh, there's a Templar, too. I love that addition.
Yeah.
Double Storm getting rained down.
Dude, he actually dodged those shots so well. He's going to kill that Templar Archives. Now he's going to hit this other spot over here. He snipes a Templar there as well.
Got some good plays on both sides. Finally, the Zealots coming in. Link should be off cooldown, so I wouldn't be surprised if those medevacs all got cleaned up here in the main base. NightMare?
Get him out of there.
Yeah, okay, well, he is going to get 2 of them. Okay, he will get all 3. Scared me for a moment. I thought they were going to get away, but man, GuMiho and NightMare really going all out here in game number 1.
Yeah, this is already such a great game.
Okay,
he's going to try to attack in again. Did he actually kill the Templar Archives, by the way?
I actually didn't catch that.
I didn't catch either.
He might have. I don't see any in the production tab.
There aren't more making, just because it's really the Templars that make it impossible to kind of...
No. He still got it.
Okay.
One more just got warped in. Yeah, that would be disastrous if the Templar Archives got taken out there because GuMiho, without setting up that 5th base with the high vest being gassed just yet, he is stretched a little thin because right now, he's trying to get all these starport units out on the field. I wouldn't be surprised if he had a 2nd starport in production, if not done already, to start adding in more Vikings, potentially even Liberators and Medevacs to deal with this Protoss army, whereas NightMare is basically building all of the splash damage in the world right now. He's got a healthy number of Colossi, 6 Disruptors, only 1 Templar, but looking at his minerals and gas count right now, I would be surprised if he didn't get a ton more in a bit.
It's still GuMiho with this double army split, basically trying to figure out which side of the map is going to be weaker, and then come in and hit that. We've got more starports coming down, and got a fusion core here as well.
I'm thinking it's just going to be for Liberator range. Whoa, big connection right there with one of the Disruptor shots. It seems like NightMare might have been a little bit ambitious, but luckily able to retreat with all of these Disruptors. In fact, 2 of them still have shots charged, I believe. But there's another attack here on the left side. Oh, there was not enough support for those Colossi. Every single one of them is going to get cleaned up, Tasteless.
Oh my God.
Oh, what a
decisive moment. The supply is
moment.
just plummeting here. GuMiho ripping NightMare to shreds here. A couple more Disruptor shots. I don't know if it's going to matter.
No.
Yeah, he's just able to dodge these, and what looked like it could have been a close game at the very last minute here is a complete domination from GuMiho. GG. Wow. 1-0 right now. Terran winning again.
Man, I am surprised that NightMare fell apart so hard right there in those final moments because,
well,
with his army composition, yeah, there wasn't too much of a meat shield in terms of gateway units. There was still only 1 Templar, even though he was floating in gas. But you would think if those armies were properly split with, say, 3 Disruptors on one side, 3 Disruptors on the other, it's going to be really hard for the Terran to engage on both fronts the way that GuMiho did. But unfortunately for NightMare, the army on the left side was just a little bit lax. It was mostly Stalker Colossus from what we caught at the tail end of that fight. And there were so many Marauders. They just completely ate through that force. And after a really back and forth game number 1, where NightMare played his best PvT of the night, in my opinion, I mean, that was looking really good. GuMiho is still up, 1-0. 1 map win away from going to the round of 8.
I'll tell you something, man. GuMiho, he has these weird, shaky games early on, but he does end up in the same place if the game goes on long enough. He just seems to have the perfect comp. Again, a lot of Cyclones back there. I wasn't sure when he was going to stop. It seemed like he should have pumped the brakes a while ago with that, but NightMare also going with that Phoenix play. I don't think we're going to see another build with that here, or if we do, it's going to have to be with much better Phoenix control, not losing them. Anyways, guys, game 2 is ready.
All right, GuMiho on the top left, leading the series 1-0. I was thinking about, you remember when, which player was it that did the pose with like the square? Like the football, it was Sue, yeah. I was thinking about that when we were looking at the poses again, and I started going to like the football terminology where you say nil instead of 0.
Oh, yeah,
Where's that
yeah,
cricket?
yeah.
I don't even know. I'm not a sports guy, fellas. I'm sorry.
I don't know. I don't have those computer games, so that's not in my Steam library.
we're true nerd. We're nerdy nerds, man.
Well, I want to see cleaner early game here from NightMare. He lost, I think, 3 Phoenixes in 3 different moments in game 1.
Yeah, he lost every single Phoenix, and they were not valuable losses either. He got, I think, 1 Raven in total with them.
They were picked off like the X-Wings in the first Star Wars movie. Like one by one, they were shot down by Darth GuMiho.
Yeah, it was pretty abysmal. Even the Phoenix that caught the Raven on NightMare's side of the map died to auto turrets. It wasn't able to get the kill. That Raven, I think, went all the way back home, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, it was not the best Phoenix control we've seen so far in this season of GSL. I would be kind of surprised if NightMare went back into it because that was really not valuable. But there were a lot of good plays that were made. And in fact, even after he, you know, really overextended in the early game where he lost those, what was it, 2 Archons and 2 Immortals and significant number of Gateway units too, when he went for that first big drop in the main, he rebounded quite well.
Yeah, you know, NightMare has a hard time closing the deal, PVT. It truly is hard to advance. The same way, hard to advance onto the Terran. The same way it's like tricky to not overextend when the Terran's right outside your base. It's the same story. I mean, because the stim units are so fast, you can kind of reconfigure the setup and try to get a more favorable position. And it's worked really well for GuMiho. He is going to get that Stargate. I was really confident he probably wouldn't do this again. But let's see if he wants to just try to do this and do it right, where his units at least do what they're supposed to do.
It could also be the kind of situation where NightMare is looking at that game 1. He's like, my Phoenix play is much better in practice than it was in that match. I still have this build up my sleeve. Let me show what the Phoenix can really do. Because when we were casting the PBTs before, the Phoenix play looked really, really high tier in this matchup. Just pairing with the Colossi so well, eventually going into higher tech Starkey units. Oh my god, that was so good by NightMare.
Yeah, that was really good. Really impressive.
I wasn't play-by-playing it because I'm like, oh, it's just going to die. But that was about as much value as you could possibly get with that deathmatch situation. He's going to come back. He gets the other Widow Mine. And he's able to shade up into the natural and confirm the add-ons. He's going to get this SCV. This is crazy. Right, the SCV barely survives, but this 3 Adept opening, even a 4th Adept coming in from NightMare.
And he's going to pocket the Phoenixes for the time being. So when these come in there, he wants them to do really a lot of damage. And by the way,
wow,
you got to be careful because when you're going up against somebody who's making Widow Mines, there's a lot of great spots you can hide these Widow Mines. It feels like it's calmed down a little bit from a couple of years ago where people were like just putting it right in the middle of the map, trying to just get in the path of, like, let's say an Oracle or Phoenix is moving out. But you do have to be careful because a couple Widow Mine shots and your entire Phoenix fleet is wiped out.
The thing that NightMare's been doing really well though this entire time is he's keeping the Marine count low. It's all the way down at 5. He's been able to trade a lot of these. I think he might have even caught, he might have barely caught that lift up with the tail end of the Shade. I'm not sure if he did. Yeah, he did. NightMare's going to intercept. This is huge. If he's able to find this medevac, does GuMiho know? It seems like he's a little bit, he's being very careful about this so right now.
Come at me.
I think just let the Shade finish. And if you spread the Phoenix, they can't kill. Oh. I mean, the Widow Mines, they don't the Widow Mines, they don't one-shot the Phoenix. If he spread them, I think maybe he just didn't want to trade the whole damage out. But
is he going to get out of here? I think he will barely get away.
Yeah,
He's
will.
Got a boost he can pocket. He's got a Viking. Not that the Viking would beat all these Phoenixes, but it's like just enough extra damage. He's going to veer away, but the Phoenixes are... Oh, no, he's going to go back, actually. He's going to regroup. It looked like he almost wanted to bank away and maybe try to regroup.
Yeah, for a moment there, I really thought NightMare was going to go in with a Phoenix and just tank the shots by splitting them and go for those guaranteed kills on the Widowmine, but I guess he just values the HP on these Phoenix way more than getting, 3 Widowmine kills, which that is a reasonable approach to have on this one. You don't have to go for the finish there, but that means that GuMiho is going to have these 3 Widowmines still with this army. This is a pretty scary force, actually. Phoenix does not deal with this particularly well. There's even a siege tank coming out.
Now, if he can get a foothold over here, it's a lot harder to take full advantage of these Phoenixes. He gets the Widowmine burrowed. One's picked up. Another one's picked up. One.
Not a bad engagement here for NightMare to start things out. Now he's using the maximum amount of range on these Stalkers just to try and pick away. Every single Widowmine has been defused at this point. That one Cyclone on the right side, very low on HP. And these are not Stim Marines. So there is a chance that NightMare's able to get more done, but he does not want to try and breach this position right now with that siege tank.
Now he wipes the Nexus. So this is already a big victory. Keep in mind that the command center at the third is going to finish. There's another Nexus that's been made north of the second base.
The thing is, I don't know if this army gets home tasteless.
Yeah, well, that is the thing. Like, it's certainly not going to be easy. He might have to lift the Vikings back off. He's got more Cyclones. I think what he can actually do is just meet back up in the middle, rinse and repeat.
Yeah, I feel like NightMare is missing an opportunity right now to go on this Terran army as it retreats. If those Stalkers continue to chase, I think he didn't expect GuMiho to just absolutely book it out of there so quickly, because I think a lot of those units should have gotten trade-added out favorably for NightMare in that situation, but instead GuMiho able to regroup back at home. Now establishing this third command center. 4 more barracks in production here for GuMiho as well. Even adding in a second Raven, man. He's been making so many Ravens today.
Yeah, it's clearly a style he's very comfortable. Oh my God, he's actually coming here.
Oh no.
Oh, this is such an overextension here by NightMare. And you know, those Cyclones are so punishing when you overextend like that. He juggles them with the medevac, and now it's going to be the Colossus stuck on the outside. And another shot that goes down. I don't know if we're going to be in this game for much longer, State.
That was a disaster from NightMare. I can't believe he doubled down and tried to go back in again for that siege tank. He lost so many Stalkers there. He lost the only Colossus, I think. There might be one that just popped out of the Robo. Yeah, there is. So it is going to regroup here, but it's got it disabled. It's disabled.
Yeah, and that's not going to do anything to help keep this Nexus alive. Stim, by the way, I didn't even realize it wasn't done. He was dominating so hard here. The Nexus is going to go down. And so this is the second time the third base has been wiped out, where NightMare can't even get any of the perks of it.
And luckily, NightMare is able to catch some of the reinforcements coming in from GuMiho, but I mean, barring some kind of miracle, he needs a really good engagement. Good focus fire right now with the Colossus on the Marines. He is going to get a favorable trade. He will only lose one of those Phoenix, and that's a desperately needed win for NightMare, but I'm wondering if it actually is enough. He's going to try and retake the third base. This is the third Nexus NightMare is trying to plant down to establish that third. The standing army right now, 2 Colossi, 5 Stalker, 1 Phoenix for NightMare, to a GuMiho who is getting ready to just get entrenched because he knows how safe he is. He just has to hold on at home. He's building missile turrets to protect the Widow Mines from Phoenix lifts. He's going to have a lot of detection. He is pumping the siege tanks. I think he has, what, 1 or 2 out already? Adding in another command center. I mean, he's just going to macro out at home because he knows that for the next, what, 2, 3, maybe even 4 minutes, he has the economic lead. He's only going to scale better than the Protoss.
Well, it's going to be so tough here for NightMare because he's lost all these key units that, you know, the only way to get those back is with time, right? I mean, anything that's wiped out from the Robo, if you lose a whole bunch of those, it takes so long to reaccumulate that. He's coming in here. He's still doing more damage. This is a pretty big supply lead. If NightMare can fend this off, it might be a pretty big reset where he's got a shot. But, you know, this distraction medevac just coming through here and picking up and getting damage, it's allowed enough time here for... Oh, my God, hold on. I was going to say it's allowed him to set up a position down here, but it looks like he might end up getting stuck down here.
GuMiho, I think he might have expected that... God, I really fumbled that. I think he expected that Blink was done but it isn't just yet. So he kind of cut his losses and left some units down there at that 4th base. Whereas in reality, he could have just lifted both of them off and gotten everything out of there scot-free. But, I mean, even after that, it's almost a 50 supply lead here for GuMiho. 22 of that's in workers. GuMiho up in expansions as well in a matchup where, I mean, NightMare would really like to be ahead in bases here as the Protoss going up against the Terran, but I mean, GuMiho, his macro is just so good.
That observer there spotting this makes it a lot easier for NightMare to set up. In fact, NightMare's going to try to push out over here. And that's going to let GuMiho, maybe he's going to destroy the rocks and try to go to the bottom again. There is a drop that's kind of looming in between the 4th base and the main base.
There is a Phoenix trying to clean that up, though. So eventually GuMiho is going to have to commit it to one location. I love this Zealot run by here by NightMare. Picking off a couple SCVs, getting a couple of units. Even the Zealots aren't trading out too cost inefficiently.
Yeah, the Zealots aren't getting that much done. That was like 3 SCVs. That's less than the cost of the Zealots themselves. A drop comes out. He takes the Phoenix out again, and that means that drop can remain a threat on the map. He's going to pick that up and try to stick it in this little, you know, cavity on the map where basically ground units can't get under it to hit it. GuMiho is nearly maxed. Concussive Shells is about to finish. We've got a lot of Marines, Marauders, Medevacs, and tanks.
Oh my god, Chase.
We do have Disruptors, so if he gets some incredible godlike shots off with that, maybe he can do something, but I'm really scared right now for NightMare.
I didn't even realize this, but NightMare doesn't have a Forge. He's on OO upgrades right now.
Oh, dude, I didn't realize that either. You're totally right.
He's just been so up against the ropes this entire time. He's in this position where if he builds 2 Forges, it tries to catch up on upgrades. He can't. He can't stand with the army of GuMiho, and so he's kind of trapped into this composition, and I think that's why he's now starting to lean really heavily in the Disruptors, is this is one unit where the upgrades truly don't matter. All right, GuMiho stepping forward, Disruptors, some of them off cooldown. No shots popping just yet. That went a little bit too far, not able to connect, and GuMiho now, effectively maxed, is ready to start attacking 2 different locations at once. And he is taking even more expansions, Tasteless.
Yeah, and this is where it becomes scary because it's not so much just about, well, will the Protoss survive this next attack or two? The problem is also, what are you going to do about all these other bases Terran is taking? Because by then it might be too late.
I mean, GuMiho is starting +3 ground weapons at the same time that NightMare is starting +1.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, Chrono Boost is good, but I don't... it's going to take a lot of Chrono Boost to catch up there. Well, as NightMare.
Well, there's a point in time where the Terran army is so strong and the Protoss army is so weak, and Stim factored in with that. I mean, what exactly are you going to do?
Hey, even this fight that shouldn't be quite so disastrous for NightMare just really isn't going well. These are +0 Colossi trying to hold on against very well upgraded Bio. And this Doom Drop coming into the main base. Luckily, NightMare does have a handful of Stalkers over there, and he is playing this quite well, given how up against the ropes he is. But on GuMiho's side of things, the fact that he's throwing down even more command centers, he's getting sensor towers established, he is just creeping across the map with planetaries. I mean, 4 more CCs are in production right now, Tasteless. I feel like this is GuMiho just getting more ahead because he's having a hard time fighting a Protoss that is turtling on 4 bases. But as long as he prevents NightMare from taking a 5th expansion and his economy balloons like this the way it is at home, I mean, barring some of the most miraculous Disruptor shots of all time, I don't know how NightMare fights back into this, and now he's throwing down 2 more Stargates and a Fleet Beacon, so I think NightMare identifies his win condition is going to be trying to turtle for as long as humanly possible.
Go into those carriers. We saw it happen before. It's exactly how he beat GuMiho there. And GuMiho, you know, he's not really able to drop anywhere and make it work. I think that truly NightMare has stabilized. It really is something impressive. Nice denial on that CC. Really getting value on that Zealot. Now, up here, this army, it seems like Protoss might have moved away from this, so he's going to come down. He's basically just confirming that there's no Nexus over here, that he doesn't have to worry about that, and that he's ahead in expansions.
Yeah, Oceanborn is one of these maps where if you fall behind like this, it is so difficult to actually secure a 5th base. And even being able to siege this gas, that hurts a lot for NightMare. He's trying a 3 Stargate air transition.
Chrono boosted empty Stargate here too. I think this is going to get worse before, or even if it ever can get better here. Hitting this spot over here, this is real damage coming in. Oh my god, it doesn't connect.
That one does. Only gets 4 Marauders though, and NightMare just doesn't really have the army composition that he can split across multiple bases. It's basically just Stalker, Disruptor. There are some Zealots mixed in. And yeah, he is probably going to clean this up, but GuMiho getting the full scout. He's going to kill the one pylon powering these 3 Stargates.
Oh my god!
Hello, Artosis.
I know. Artosis just woke up in a cold sweat.
This army is going to get cleaned up. This is a very cost-inefficient trade for GuMiho. It's a desperately needed win for NightMare, but I mean, is it even a win? It's like you play like a total war game. It's like you barely edge out the victory. It's like it's a Pyrrhic victory.
Yeah,
however you pronounce that word.
I don't know if he can stop the bleeding, to be honest. He just has gotten so bad.
He lost every Stargate tasteless. He can no longer continue the Skytoss transition. He has to reinvest 900 resources to get those 3 Stargates out. And we're going up against a Terran who already knows that is your game plan, and he's maxed. And this is NightMare just being like, all right, I'm done. Let's have one more battle. Even as he moves across the map, he's face-palming. Because this is really just a Hail Mary.
Okay, so, you know, he's going to try to come back across the map, but he's already lost control of what's happening back at home. Well, maybe not. It's just tanks. It's suddenly a StarCraft 1 TVP over here. He's going to come forward here. The SCVs are going to go down. Hey, it's something.
It is something.
And GuMiho's basically just drawing a line in the sand and say, oh, hold on. He says, oh, you're targeting too hard.
Oh, no.
Dude, that was crazy. He goes, wait a minute. Did you right-click on that command center? All right, I'm coming in. Now it's just Zealots and Stalkers. They're never going to last against the endless stream of Marines and Marauders coming out here.
Yeah, GuMiho has this one wrapped up. NightMare, I think at this point you're basically just kind of coming to terms with the loss.
GG.
GG is called, and GuMiho is going to be the last player to advance from Group C, joining his Terran friend ByuN into the round of 8.
It's a big day for the Terrans.
Well, they needed one.
They killed it. NightMare played pretty well. I'd say he's kind of still in the same, at least in Korea here with GSL, still in the same position where he looks good. He can take games off, you know, the very best players. He cannot get close to taking a GSL, and I don't know if we're ever going to see him do it.
He's just always teetering on the edge of top 8. This is 3 GSLs in a row.
Yeah.
He got 3rd place in his group in the round of 16, and the fact that he's able to make it here is impressive, but it's a tough road.
GuMiho looking very impressive, looking very GuMiho-esque, you know, with his unusual unit comps, a lot of crazy ideas. Didn't have any crazy mech games like we sometimes see from him, but we did see a lot of Cyclones.
There were a lot of Cyclones. Classic GuMiho right there. And NightMare, I gotta say, he did play quite well this series.
Yeah, for sure.
He did lose 2-0, but I feel like every single season we're seeing him get a little bit better. It's just so hard to get the pieces. And, you know, maybe new patch comes out. Sometimes some players benefit from the new patch more than others. Maybe he'll be able to get a second win in the next season of GSL this year. But as it is right now, my heart does kind of break for it because this is the guy that's been grinding for so long. And he always comes so close to the top 8, but not able to get it. All right, we're going to go into an interview here with GuMiho, our winner. So that was a very tough series, especially NightMare going for some different strategies, trying in Phoenixes, but you were able to overcome and advance to the quarterfinals. And GuMiho says, yeah, we had a lot of fights that were happening, but I was feeling confident in my play. And things just kind of went my way. So you made it to the winner's match. You fell down, went to the elimination match. You must have been disappointed. How are you feeling in the final match? So I've always been defeated in ByuN, whether it be in international tournaments or in GSL, and the fact that it happened here again, I was pretty upset, and I was disappointed in myself. I really wanted to change that around. And honestly, I was a little bit pissed. So now they're asking, how do you feel about your TVP right now? GuMiho says his offline TVP win rate's better than his online. Something about being on stage certainly helps. And especially in online tournaments against Protoss players, I feel like I can lose really against anybody. But offline, I feel like many of my Protoss players kind of succumb to the pressure while I'm able to last through it. So in your TVP against NightMare, you used a lot of Ravens. What's up with that? Well, I can't explain all the details about my build because it's very technical. Okay, GuMiho, you're smart, we get it. And I also wanted to do mechanic, play mech against Protoss. So I went for a bit of a mind game there with my composition. And I wanted to kind of play against my previous styles and do something different to throw my opponents off. So they're asking about how you feel about his quarterfinal matches, and they're talking about how advancing in second might actually be a boon here for GuMiho. And I think GuMiho is saying he wants to go to the semifinals to get revenge on someone. I didn't quite catch that. Oh, he's saying he wants to meet ByuN again in the playoffs, because they can't meet at the round of 8. GuMiho says, thank you to the fans. Thank you for supporting me. My performance today wasn't good. Come on, GuMiho, you just advanced, man. You did great.
Total pro gamer answer. It's like, if I had to rate my performance, I'd give myself a D. It's like, well, I mean, you know, top 8 in GSL. All right, whatever.
ByuN did the same thing, man, and he advanced in first. Didn't even drop a map. He's like, yeah, it's an 8 out of 10, but 2 Terran players advancing from this group, and I gotta say, I mean, they played better than the Protoss for sure. Both NightMare and Creator, it seemed like today wasn't really their day. The PvP was a really fun series, but both of them in TVP, it wasn't even feeling like they were, you know, making mistakes in terms of builds, but oftentimes just the control wasn't there, the presence on the map wasn't there, so certainly the better 2 players advancing from this group. As now we look at the round of 8, Group A shaping up with Mario Classic and ByuN. That is the top-heavy group. Group B, Stats surprisingly advancing. Very happy for him. I think it's his first advancement to the top 8, and since before he got back from military, I think
so, yeah.
He will be joined by Shin and GuMiho, and then of course next week when we cast Group D, we will know who will join them in the top 8 among these 4 players right here.
All right, well, this is Group D, guys. Solar, RYUNG, Cure, and Hero. You do not want to miss out on this one. I'm very interested in seeing how Hero is going to perform.
Yeah, I feel like there was this era where he was just by far the best Protoss player in the world. Now I think it has to be Max Pax. I mean, he's been on fire pretty much every tournament he plays in. Hero's kind of tapered off, but Solar and Cure have been looking so good recently. And RYUNG is always one of those players that I think because he's such a veteran, and he doesn't always have the tip-top performance. Some players write him off, but this is a guy that could show up and have a really good day, and I wouldn't be surprised if he beat Solar, or he beat Cure, or he beat Hero.
Yeah, I think he's probably not getting out, but, you know, RYUNG is still able to hang with the very best. Cure, again, he really scares me with how strong he's been looking as of late. Solar as well. Yeah, but Hero, he's the guy I'm going to be watching for the most.
Absolutely.
And seeing how he performs.
But I'm pretty happy. We already have, what, I think it's 2 or 3 Terran in the top 8, 2 Protoss in the top 8, and 1 Zerg. So it's a pretty fun spread already, man. It's shaping up to be a really exciting playoffs.
Yes, it's good to be back here doing GSL. Again, sorry I had to miss last week. I was overseas. If you guys are going to come and check out the show, get tickets on that website down there. Should be in English. If not, if you're on Chrome, right-click, translate into English. You can't get in here without a ticket. We usually don't sell out this early in the tournament, but I know some of you guys that are watching might be coming in here weeks later. Buy your ticket early.
Yeah, and I've also seen some people online who are coming for the first time wondering how they get the headsets to actually listen to the
Front desk.
Front desk, you'll trade your ID for the headset.
There's a van outside the building. There's a guy with a trench coat. You talk to him.
He opens it up. He's got all the different headsets.
Bring $500 in unmarked bills.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's all the time we have. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next week. Bye-bye.